Welcome to a Friday Reads, where I talk about what I read, what I'm reading, what I hope to get to next. I've finished 2 things. I'm in the middle of a very long thing and a very short thing, and another very long thing that I'm just not going to talk about today. And then I have a book haul, and it's fine. It's fine. There are reasons. I don't feel bad. I love all these books. I'm excited to read all these books. That's what's important. First thing I finished was The City in Glass by Nevo. I picked this one up because I assumed, rightfully, that it would remind me a bit of why I loved Siren Queen, and I was right. Siren Queen is very ethereal, dreamlike, golden age of Hollywood. Are the people actually monsters, miracles, deals with devils sort of idea. Very, though, ethereal. It's not very grounded. This is not very grounded in kind of like a dark fairy tale sort of way. Not even fairy tale, but like a folk tale, a dark folk tale with angels and demons. And our demon, what's her name? Vitrine, loves this city and has really built it up. And like, she loves it, warts and all. And I think that's what's so fascinating about her as a character and what she represents as a demon. And one day a bunch of angels show up and destroy the city. And then she's rebuilding it and grieving. It's like a combination of like that grieving as a metaphor sort of thing. The part that's weird about this book is one of those angels keeps coming back and is intertwined with her. And their relationship, I think if it had not existed, this would have worked better for me. I could also see people like being like, this book doesn't mean anything to me without that relationship. That said, it's an integral part of the story. It's not necessarily that you could just like lift it out and it's a different book or anything like that. But the ending was it was challenging for me to figure out why she chose that ending and what that made this book mean to me. And I think that one is within itself, I loved that. Regardless of how I feel about that ending, I think I land on I don't like the ending. I don't know. There are just reasons. They are not people. There's an angel and there's a demon, and those things choose to be in human forms, but it's very clear that this work is not trying to treat them as people. But as a person consuming the art, it's really hard for me not to put or take meaning from their relationship, metaphorically or otherwise. And I don't think Nevo thinks that they have a healthy relationship. But I can't figure out if I'm supposed to be happy with where things ended up. I think that's where I'm at. Like, I think that's where I don't know. And I don't know necessarily if there is an answer. And I think that is what makes this great. Anyways, if you want a story that kind of feels like an adult folk tale that's definitely very lyrical, like I really loved how like the sentences sounded and things like that. I loved listening to it while I was doing some yard work. It just kept me company. It was a good story. I like processing grief and things like that and how you handle change. I loved the little snippets we got into her life in the city before it was destroyed. Basically, everything with the city I loved. Everything with the relationship, I really could have taken it or left it. And then apparently that relationship was way more important for the story than I anticipated with how this ended. So, yeah. I liked it. I think Siren Queen is still my favorite Nevo, but this was definitely in that same vein for me. The next thing I finished was Blackheart Man. Oh, this is such a stunning cover, but I'm going to show you a picture because, so shiny with the ring light. So this, first of all, if you are someone who's always like, everything reads the same, publishing sucks. Well, Nayla Hopkinson's been writing for a very long time, and this book only has like 300 ratings on Goodreads, so you can give it a go. I do think of the 3 I've read, it's the most accessible, I feel. Like, in terms of cultural stuff, I feel like it is. Because, like, I think dialect-wise, Brown Girl and The Ring might be the easiest. But it also leans a lot on folktale creatures from the Caribbean that I feel like if you don't feel comfortable with going with it, or if you don't know them, you might be like, what is happening? So I think this one is probably the most palatable. That said, I always say that Nayla Hopkinson is not writing to teach you about the Caribbean. She is writing a story in the Caribbean, and you get to be there. Like, you get to have this window into a story, and it's not for you per se. Like, I don't know. There was like, my friend was describing like how Kendrick Lamar raps, and it's for like a very specific subsection of people in the United States, and everyone can partake and like it, but there's going to be like little like nods to things that a very small subset of people are going to care about. At least that's how she described it to me. I don't know enough about rap to know if that's like real or not, but it felt right. And so I'm reading this, and this is the third work by her. I've read a lot of Caribbean speculative, so I can really go with it at this point. There's a lot of words that are used in written Caribbean work that I'm like, okay, I know what this word means now. Like, there's a word for you all. It's like, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's like, it took me a long time to learn, like, oh, that's what this word means, because it's not spelled with a Y or anything. It's like OONUH or something like that. And I really liked Vakosi in this book. Not because he's a good person, and the book recognizes this. He's just an agent of well-meaning, selfish chaos. Okay? So if you don't get on with that, you're not going to probably like the book, because he is a lot. But I enjoyed the history and the present day, how they intertwined, how we were handling this problem. I do think it's a smidge long for my taste, and one of the reasons I like some of her other works is they were like only 300 pages, and this one's closer to 400. So I think it was a smidge long for my tastes, but I really enjoyed being on this island and putzing around and figuring out what we were going to do and how we were going to save the day. And just the different narrative voices. Like, I almost want to say, if you liked A Spear Cuts Through Water, you're going to like some of the form of this in terms of how the story is told. You're not going to necessarily, it's not a one-to-one situation, but if you like having different narrative voices and from unique perspectives in a work, I think there would be some overlap there. So I was really happy to be pushed to finally read this because of the Ignite and Ursula K. Le Guin Award books. And yeah, it's probably not my favorite Nayla Hopkinson, although it's my favorite character portrayal in a Nayla Hopkinson. Vakosi is great. I do think Midnight Robber is still my favorite, even though I always like, I just because I say it's my favorite doesn't mean you should pick it up, because it is hard. That is a hard book, but I kind of want to go back to it now that I have more context. That one was also fun for me because I got to read it with my friend from Guyana, and she was able to give me like some insight into some of the carnival references. Because again, it's so lush and exciting to explore this place, but it doesn't come with a lot of explanations. It's like how if you were writing a story for another American, you wouldn't necessarily describe a lot of our folktale things just out loud, right? Like, we would just assume that if you're referencing Cinderella, if someone knows what Cinderella means. You know, we don't have to go through the whole story. It's kind of like that sort of insight that you might not have. And then the book that I am reading that's very long is The Stone of Farewell by Tad Williams. I am 70% of the way through. I just got to part 3. So feels like I'm getting somewhere. I am happy to say this is probably going to be a 3 to 3.5 star read. It's too long to be a 4-star read. Absolutely too long. Like, goodness gracious. Why is it so long? But I'm having a better time. It's multi-POV, and it was interesting. So there's always on the first book, Dragonbone Chair, the blurb from George R. R. Martin being like, the trilogy that made me write my 7-book trilogy, which, you know, joke's on him because there's only 5. Whose fault is that? Anyways, but the first book, Dragonbone Chair, feels way more like a Realm of the Elderling book in terms of the tropes and the character archetypes and things like that. This second book, I'm like, oh, I see now. Like, even down to how the groups are split up. I'm like, man, this is really reminding me of Arya or Sansa. And like, all these little things, I'm just like, huh. And like, that's definitely this group of people. And like, it's obvious that there was inspiration here. Like, it's not like plagiarism or anything like that, but it was like, oh, okay. So it's been more enjoyable. Simon's grown. He's not the main character either. I am liking all the windows I get in, and the world building's just gotten less aggressive in terms of, like, in the first book, the world building would just be like, well, while we're walking, let me just tell you this story. And I was just like, there's so many proper nouns in this story, and I don't know what to latch on to. And now it's just more organic at times. Like, I just get to, like, be in the world, and it just works better in this case. So yeah, that's been fine. I am definitely starting to feel the fatigue of, like, I've been reading this for a while. Like, I only force myself to read it on my commute so that I'll get it done. So, like, last week, I treated myself to when I needed an audiobook outside. I read this, and that was a good decision. I think it kept my momentum up. And then the next book I'm reading for the Ursula K. Le Guin Award in Fiction is Short North Continent Ribbon. It's this long. I would show you this, but there's a big sticker here for Search Ohio, because that's how I got this book. And I have only read the first story, but I'm in the middle of the second, and I'm liking it. I'm trying. This is fun for me because of the world. I don't know how I feel about the writing style. I don't think it's bad, but I don't think it's gripping me either. But the world, I am curious about the political machinations and also just the world building. Like, so far, like, so the title says North Continent Ribbon. Everyone always has these ribbons in their hair to, like, denote connections they have. So, like, the cultural world building is a little interesting. And like I said, the political world building. And, like, the first story was about a piece of tech that someone's like, we really need to develop this. We need to stop looking at short-term gains and look at long-term gains and, like, how that played out politically. So in terms of short-term, like, short story political intrigue, I think it's really packing a punch. But I will tune in after I've read more of it, because, like, I've only read 30 of the 150 pages. And like I said, there's 6 stories in here. They're all interconnected. And I do think I enjoy exploring a world this way. Like, I don't get to do it often because it doesn't make a lot of money. And I feel like authors don't always, like, do this, like, as a creative project. So it's been fun for me to read a space opera world in this way. And then I don't know what I'm reading next. I have ideas, but I haven't decided how much I want it to be just, like, purely for fun or maybe for a challenge. I don't know what my brain's in the mood for. So instead, we're going to spend the rest of this video looking at my stack of books and I bought and why did I buy them. And the reason I bought some of these is because, well, let's first start with some gifts. So first off, I got some gifts and I got a book from a publisher. So from Evie, from She Was Only Evie, she got me the short story and, I believe, essay collection. Is it short stories and essays? From Hachipoyo, which I think I showed you guys, where it's like Portuguese on one half, English on the other. I wanted this, or I didn't know I wanted this, but I'm excited about this because I read But Not Too Bold, which is their novella that came out this year. And I hear we might get a novel from them next year. And, like, her writing is good. So Brazilian, Argentinian author who seems to primarily write in Portuguese and translate to English. And I believe she's a translator herself. So I think she translated this. And, like, it's a slightly different from the original. I think it's reorganized a little bit and maybe had some stuff added in from what I heard. Really liked it. So Evie got me that. And then this was such a fun surprise. So if you don't know, I'm Venezuelan American. Born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. So if you ask me for my ethnicity, I'm going to say Cleveland, Ohio, like 9 times out of 10, because there's a vibe here. There's a vibe. But I'm always looking for Venezuelan works. And if you don't know, in Latin America, there's really, like, a handful of countries that get a lot of works translated, like Argentina and Brazil, a little in Colombia, a little in Chile, but a lot of them don't get a lot of translated works. And Venezuela is one of those. And I read It Would Be Night in Caracas a few years ago because Evie bought it for me, and I really liked it. And now this one looks more speculative. Same author, No Place to Bury the Dead. And first of all, that's a very fun cover. But yeah, I'm very excited. It's an unnamed Latin American country, a mysterious plague that spreads quickly. I'm excited. I'm excited for this. I didn't know it was out. I'm so glad Evie sent it to me. So those are from Evie. And then from Tor, they sent me A Far Better Thing, which I hear is a retelling of The Tale of Two Cities, which I have read, but I haven't read it since I was 15. So I don't remember much about it other than I liked it more than Great Expectations. But that's not really a big bar to clear for me and Dickens' writing. But I really loved the other H.G. Perry book I read earlier this year. So I have a complete buy-in into trying this out. It's a Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell meets Tale of Two Cities. It's a fairy revenge set during the French Revolution, which French Revolution? Isn't that always the joke? I know Les Mis, but I don't know which French Revolution Les Mis is either. Because isn't there like 2 or 3 French Revolutions? I haven't taken AP Euro in such a long time. So, and then my friend Shannon was in town. And so we went to a couple bookstores, and like, I buy books when I'm at bookstores. That's just who I am. I'm not going to apologize for being reasonable. And so at one of them, I already read one of them. I got the second book in the Bridge Kingdom series, which I've already read. We're not hauling that. That's been read. And it's not near me. I don't know where it is. It's downstairs somewhere. But what I found on the shelf is a Tananari Do short story collection, The Wishing Pool, because I think she has a book coming out next year that plays off one of the stories in here. At least she put out like a reading recommendation thing on Blue Sky. And I'm like, I want this, and it's floppy. So now I have 2 Tananari Do's on my shelf that I need to read, and I've been collecting short story collections, so I need to get back into my short story game. Like bad. That's got to be a goal that I figure out. but I'm excited. I am so excited that I have this. And it was in such good condition. And this was at Loganberry Books, which is a bookstore I really enjoy. But then we first went to Hexagon Books. And Hexagon Books is my happy place. This is in Cleveland Heights, Ohio. If you are in the Cleveland area, it's really close to the Cedar Lee Theater on Lee and Cedar. Okay, this means something to Cleveland people. It means nothing to anyone else, but I really love this bookstore. It's 1 year anniversary this week, and I'm so excited. There's going to be like a party at the end of the month. The owner of this bookstore also does language classes and like offers like Spanish chat hours on like every other Saturday and like book clubs, and like it's just such a good community thing, and like the quality of the curation of these bookshelves is unmatched. Okay, so I took Shannon there. And we were just browsing and chatting, and we chatted with the owner, and he like bought books off our recommendation. And I was looking for the Latin American horror anthology that was mentioned in the Ignite Awards. Oh, here's like a bookstore, the Hexagon Books. See, that was just in my book. So he didn't have that book, but he had a whole short story collection by one of the authors in that anthology. And so I'm like, okay. And it's so cute. Look how cute this is. And it's got little French. Oh, that's pretty. This was unexpected. Oh, so I have Fresh Dirt from the Grave. I don't know if I'll like it, but it's a Bolivian author. And let's see earlier in this video, it's hard to get translated works from places like Bolivia, Uruguay, Paraguay. So Bolivia was one of the countries I hadn't read from yet. And then also on their young adult shelf, they had To Shape a Dragon's Breath, which I know it was published adult through Del Rey, but new adult, young adult, whatever. The sequel to this comes out next year. Everyone I know has been loving it. I have been loving magic school setting books. This is Dragon magic school setting, I'm fairly sure. And so even if it's not, I'm going to read it. It's an indigenous young adult dragon book. And I'm excited, and it flops. Very nice. And like I said, sequel is coming soon. So it felt good to get. Had me pumped. And then I was there this past Saturday to do my second round of practicing Spanish with complete strangers. And I don't know if you guys remember, but the first year I did Ursula K. Le Guin Award in Fiction, I read one of my favorite short story collections of all time. And that was Drinking from Graveyard Wells. And look, it even has Ursula K. Le Guin Award in Fiction sticker. And this is truly such an amazing short story collection. And so I needed the book trophy. I needed it. I absolutely needed this book trophy. Like, I don't read that many Zimbabwean stories, but these, I don't know if any of these was below 4 stars. I think most of them were 4.5 to 5 star stories for me. So I needed it. I needed it. And this also reminds me, like, this has grave in the title too. So that's what I've done, for better or worse. You know, that's my life. But, you know, there's no such thing as too many books. There's no such thing. Actually, there definitely is, but I keep telling myself, and it's going to bite me in the butt, but I bought myself bookshelves, and I believe he's going to start working on them soon. So hopefully by the end of this year, I will have bookshelves. It's through like a family friend carpenter, and so it like, the timeline is always a little bit like, you're going to get high quality, but when? On his timeline, but it's fine. I'm just so excited for them. And so I keep telling myself, you'll have space. And I'm like, but will I? Who's to say? Anyways, what are you reading, doing, watching? We did start The Bear, and I'm actually really liking it. Season 3's probably was the least fun for me. Like, I liked it, but it wasn't like as fun. And I feel like we have a goal that I'm like liking, and I'm liking the character trajectories in this 4th season. So I think it's back to what I liked in season 2, in season 4. So I'm pretty pumped, hoping that keeps up. I've only watched 2 episodes, and we're almost done with Murderbot. We have that new episode that's coming today when you're seeing this video. I haven't watched yet because obviously I filmed this in the past. So if you just want to leave an emoji to let me know you're here. Oh, what have we talked about? I don't even know. I don't even know. Let's do a heart for Black Heart Man. That seems reasonable. And otherwise, like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.